Hello, so my name is Jessica Sican Fernandez, and I am the research advisor for the Sociopolitical Citizenship Participatory Action Research Project, or CSPAR for short. I've created this video to help students navigate the coding process for our project, and today I'm going to walk you through the various documents and sources and resources included in our research folder that you can access to be able to do the coding process for this project. Please feel free to email me at the end of this video if you have any questions or something is unclear, or if you're unable to access the folder and it's including documents. So this is the main folder that I will be sharing with you so that you might be able to have access to the data files. So the data comprises of one-on-one, qualitative, semi-structured interviews with Unity 4 student activists. These interviews were conducted from 2016 up until 2017, and they were conducted with 20 students. And the majority of the students identified as African American and Black women. Two of the interviewees identified as male. So it was an overrepresentation of Black and African American student activists that were really at the core of the Unity 4 movement here at Santa Clara University. And so the data and any material and resources for this project are found in this folder. The first folder contains information regarding the photo narrative project. The second folder contains information regarding the interviews, and this is the one that we're going to be working on the most. There's also information here for two retreats that we organized, one in 2017 and the other one in 2018. This was the Queen Retreat, the Quest for Unapologetic Emotional Emancipation is Now. And this retreat was organized as a response to some of the issues students were experiencing on campus and as part of their organizing and their movement. The next folder contains project materials and resources. This next folder contains agendas from our meetings, our research project meetings. There's a folder that contains a lot of resources and articles related to this research from Black feminist theory, Black feminist thought, to student activism, to intersectionality, and other topics related to that. There's also a folder that contains resources for the documenting of past Unity movements here on campus. So the main folder that we're going to work on today is the CSPAR project interview transcript folder. And so I'll go ahead and open that folder now. I'll create a duplicate so that we can look at that folder as we're looking at other documents that are important for the coding process. So the coding resource, brief guidelines for transcript reading document, this one here, this is an important document because it contains the guidelines and the instructions for how you should be coding the interview transcripts. This next document, the coding resource working document of themes in the data, that one is not so necessary at this particular moment, but feel free to browse through it if you're interested in looking at some of the themes and patterns that we're observing in the data. The next document that is very important for this process is the codebook with data excerpts. This will be the main document that you will be using, this one and the coding source. So for the purposes of this video, we'll be focusing on these two documents and the folder that contains the interview transcripts. So here you see 20 interview transcripts, interview documents. These are transcripts, so typed up written responses or written accounts of the interviews that were conducted. All of the names listed here are fake names to maintain the confidentiality and anonymity of the students that we interviewed. So for the purposes of coding, you will be assigned to read the transcript of one of these students. For example, if you've been assigned the transcript of Emerald, you open Emerald's document and you begin to read through the entire document. And as you can see, this document has already been coded according to these guidelines, right? Lavender for chunks or data excerpts that highlight or illustrate experiences of student activists, right? Green for examples that illustrate a learning process. Magenta for examples that illustrate the challenges of being a student activist. And the blue is keywords or things that might have stood out to you. So as you can see, this transcript has already been read and coded. Now that's the first phase, right? Reading through it and making sure that it's been color-coded according to our coding scheme. The second step is reading through it again or reviewing those sections that have already been coded and color-coded and copying and pasting them onto the codebook with data excerpts. So for example, let's take the transcript of Dew. So we'll close out Emerald. Let's say you've been assigned to read and code Dew's data, Dew's interview. So you open Dew's interview. Here we have a list of themes, right, based on the research assistant's interpretation of the transcript. You read through it and you see all of these different color coding schemes. So when you go to the codebook, there are different themes, different topics, and these correspond to our guidelines for coding, right? So intersectionality, we have here experiences of being a student activist, which might relate to intersectionality. So intersectionality is the first theme. The second theme is confronting racisms. The third theme is embodied activisms. We have a lot of data. We have about almost close to 100 pages, but we have about 5 or 6 themes. Critical intellectualism, and there's always a definition next to it. Social emotional taxation, a definition of it, and highlighting that corresponds to it, magenta, as we can see here in the coding scheme. And the sixth code is healing towards emotional emancipation, and that would be the last theme, right? So there's 6 themes total. So once you've read the transcript and you've done the coding scheme, or you've read through the coding scheme and you understand what it means in the examples that are being provided, and it's really important that you read the entire transcript very, very carefully. Then you cut, or then you don't cut actually, I'm sorry. Don't cut it all, because then that'll be a problem. You copy and paste the excerpt onto the corresponding section, yeah? So for example, this one here is purple, right? It says, my experience as a college student has been that I haven't just been a college student. And she goes on to explain what that has been like. I live with my family, I'm a woman of color, Muslim student. Like, there's just many parts of my identity that get impacted by things that happen on and off campus. So that's clearly an example of describing her experience as a student. That is also an example of describing the challenges of being a student, being perhaps a student activist. So you would copy and paste this chunk, and you would copy it onto the data excerpt from the interview transfer into the example category that can be found in the codebook, right? So here you would go into possibly theme It would be theme number. It actually would be theme number 1, right? It's about intersectionality, right? The student is describing the multiple intersecting experiences, right? And here we can see that particular excerpt being copied and pasted here. So that's essentially all you have to do for the coding process. I hope this makes sense. Please feel free to email me if things are not clear. The most important thing is for you to be sure to read very, very carefully through the assigned transcript that is being provided to you, and that you are able to code it carefully according to these guidelines, and then transferring what is coded in the document, in the transcript, according to these guidelines onto the codebook, onto these examples here. And it's incredibly important that you include the name, the page number, that corresponds to that particular quote. So hopefully this has made sense. If it has not, please be sure to reach out and let me know, and I look forward to us engaging in the coding process for this project. Thank you.